So this is the first episode of the Spaces series. It's something I've wanted to do for quite a while, but haven't really known what direction to kind of take it. Like, should it be video? Should it be audio? Should it be photos? Should it be this? Should it be that? So what I've kind of settled on is recording of a conversation with someone, and then some accompanying photos that run alongside it. Okay, take 25 of doing this introduction. So this conversation that you're about to listen to is between myself and a friend, Nik Adam. So Nik is one half of the artistic duo Luke and Nik. I've known both Luke and Nik since the first day at university back in 2007, so it felt like a good place to start. We sat down in Nik's studio in South Bermondsey in London, and we had a conversation about the space, about what it means to have your own space, what it was like kind of in the early days when they didn't have the space to kind of work out of and they're doing it out of bedrooms and living rooms, and now almost 10 years later and kind of the third edition of their studio space and what that means for both personal work and commercial work. We talk about their upcoming show, solo show in London, and how valuable the space has been both for creating the work, for editing it, and for kind of having a space to display the work in kind of a 3D before it gets taken to the gallery. There are a series of photos that kind of accompany this audio recording, so you can go to either the Instagram, which is a collection of .info, or the website, which again is a collection of .info, and you should be able to find it on there. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hopefully more of these to come. Right, so I'm here today with a very good friend, Nik Adam. We've known each other since basically the first day at university back in 2007, where we were studying photography. Our rooms were next door to each other in the halls. I'm in Nik's studio space, which he shares with 3 other people. I think he's been here since November 2020, and then in this building in a different studio for maybe 2 or 3 years before that. So welcome to the space.
Welcome to the studio.
So whereabouts are we?
So we are in southeast London. We are in between Surrey Quays and New Cross. They're the nearest stations. Yeah. That we often tell people if they're coming.
A little bit of a no man's land.
Bit of a no man's land. Next to a giant DHL. We're on a industrial estate, essentially, which we share with, like, this building is part of Artistic Spaces, which is a studio renting place, and yeah, but we have like loads of other spaces around opposite, which are, there's a brewery, Forest Road Brewing. There's a big candle making place, which is very mysterious. They never had the doors open, but I saw the actual like blueprints of the plant, and their space is massive.
Oh,
so I don't know what.
Whereabouts is that?
Just on the next to the brewery.
Oh, you feel like full of boxes.
I think it's still the same place.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
across the road that they grow mushrooms.
Yeah, across the road they are called Bioham or something. Probably have to edit in the right name there, but they're doing really cool stuff. Yeah, because I think they make something from mushroom matter which is being used for materials. So it very feels like
mycelium. Is that the word?
Probably some mycelium. You know, making the material feels like a very forward-thinking product. Yeah. So edge cutting, I would say.
I guess it's quite an industrial area, but even in the recent times. So Nik and I shared a studio upstairs. I left there about 5 years ago, but so we were in a space upstairs, and even back then, it wasn't like it is now. There used to be kind of a lot of parties in like warehouses just down the road on Ilderton Road, where there's also another set of studios there that we know people that had studios there, and now it's like a 20-story block of flats. So quite a similar story to you get in a lot of parts of London.
And the flats seem to be closing in on this space, and I do sometimes think, how much longer do we have? Because I kind of get the sense that it could be, you know, when the building's sold or when the lease is up, I don't know. But at the end of the day, that's kind of the landscape. But yeah, it still feels you got that nice industrial sort of out of towny sort of feel, but yeah, it's been a good spot.
Yeah, and you share the space with 3 other people. Do you want to give a little shout out to those guys?
Yeah, for sure. So share it with Jake Kenny, who you obviously know very well from back in the day. So he's a photographer, and he has one of the desk space here. We got a new guy who's moved in recently called Arthur Comley. He does fashion, like mainly fashion work and portraiture. So really nice to have him on board because he's a bit younger. So
Fresh face.
fresh face, new energy.
Yeah.
And he seems to have fitted in really nicely. And we have Andy Price, who has been here since the beginning as well.
Nice.
He does still life. He went to uni with Jake, so that's how those two know each other. And obviously we got to know everyone all together, sort of thing, over the past sort of decade or so. So that's the current setup.
Yeah, so you kind of have like desk space in one area, you got your tea making station on the other side, and then half of the space is kind of for shooting. It's not like a huge space, but I could imagine coming here as like a student a couple of years out of university and looking at this, you'd be like, this is amazing. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Or us doing that in those kind of periods of time.
Yeah, yeah. I really love this space. I actually think it's the perfect size because obviously we shared the space 2 floors up in this building, which was our second studio venture because we, myself, Pete and Luke, the guy I work with, we first went into the studio situation together as a 3, and then we moved. So the second space we moved to was like the 2 floors up from here, and it was an amazing space, mezzanine, and had a huge shoot area, didn't it? Yeah. But obviously that came with an extremely high rent, which for a while we tried to figure out between us and rent the space just to a few people, but I think prices just escalated and it became quite an ordeal to like just get. I think in the end might have had like 6 or 7 people there, which was great, but just the turnaround was tricky to deal with.
A lot of admin with those kind of things.
So then downgrading to a slightly smaller space was nice because originally it was just me and Andy and Jake. So and we were lucky in a sense because that was furlough time where we got the grant to help us with studio rent. So that actually helped us for a long time. And yeah, it's smaller, so you can't do as big a production shoots, but the main thing I use it for is the desk. Yeah, I sit here every day and pretty much spend 99% of my time here, in terms of like what we do work-wise. And then the space is big enough over here on the right to do a little shoot or do editing. Like if you just want a bigger desk space, obviously storage. We can do lots of things here, like personal projects and works, like portraiture pieces. Like we did an amazing project with someone called Harv, who's a local musician. And that was just like perfect because they reached out and were like, are you interested in doing something? Obviously they're very new, starting out, not big budgets and all that sort of stuff. So because they were local, because I had this space, that was like, I think the huge benefit of this is you can do something if that opportunity arises. And we made like some great work with them. Yeah,
it's like rather than going and having to rent a space somewhere else and it's a blank cube, basically a white cube that you've got soulless. From 9 till 5 and the pressure's kind of on it. At least with this is a bit more.
Yeah, and like this feels like homely, like people can just relax, and if you got some mates who want to just kind of sit in this like desk area and like we shoot over there, it just makes it a comfortable space, hopefully. And I think that's like what you want to resonate when you're shooting with people like that, or just personal projects that reflects like you.
Do you feel like you have a good balance of using it for like the personal stuff, or is it more like paid shoots, or is it a bit of both, or has there been more of one and less of the other recently?
I think good balance actually, but I would say that's because when me and Luke have commercial shoots, I guess they could be first and foremost outside, so we're not doing them in the studio anyway, or they are slightly bigger productions that we have to take out of this space anyway. But then like more recently, we've done some mixed media projects where there's some still life element, there's some people, but we're able to manage and do the production behind the shoot. So actually doing it here is ideal because we can shoot outside quite easily. There's parks and accessibility for things there, and then in here we can like run our still life aspect. We got all the lights, all the cameras, all our film, computers, and everything here. So so there's been a nice balance of like that, which is like the commercial projects, and then like the personal projects, like the Harv one that we did. We also shooting that running documentary. We got the guys in here and shot them there. So for that, it's perfect because it's like we can do that extra bit like whenever we want. And that's ideal
because everything is here, and a lot of your work is like based around process and like whether it's not so like coloured papers or like the backdrops or like having the printer and being able to print stuff off like mid-shoot and projecting things on the wall. Doing all that in, again, a rented studio sometimes is way more stressful because you got to bring everything.
You got to bring everything. You got to pack it all up. But also, I think it is nice, like, I don't know, you can see like here I've got just like sketches and edits and like, just, making the posters and stuff for like the show. Like you can have like all these things just like, normally if we're working on some post-production stuff, I'll just have like loads of stuff like just
pasted around
up here. And so then when you come to the shoot, your inspiration, your thought process and that whole build-up, which everyone has to do, like whether you're like heavily process led like us or not, I think you always have that think space, don't you? So to be here and to fall upon those things if you need to is pretty cool.
What was like your experience kind of studio spaces prior to having, like, I guess the first one that we got back in maybe 2014? Like, whose studios had you been to, like commercially or just like personal, kind of similar to this? Where had you been and what was your experience of it?
Well, I guess I assisted. So I saw La Creme de la Creme, West London, Fulham-based photographer called Richard Foster, who was top of the game, still lifer. So we'd be shooting De Beers diamonds, Mulberry bags, Prada bags, Ballantine whiskey. It was just the high end of the luxury world. So that was a 3-floor refurbished townhouse, and
with every piece of equipment
you could ever wish for. So I guess it went from the uni days where we would just use like studios or makeshift rooms or whatever it was, to then seeing that, which arguably would never be achievable in like my lifetime because I don't know, it was just next level. And then so that's the main person I assisted really, and other shoots that I assisted on, other photographers were mainly on location. So I remember seeing Lucas Vazimann's studio, which was in Switzerland. So when I assisted Tayo and Nico for a little bit, we'd go in, I think that must have been in Switzerland. We went to go to his house, which was half house, half studio, and that was amazing. Like the Richard Foster one was like super nice, and like absolutely plush, and you can see like if you can afford it and you can do that, then why not?
There's not much personality in that kind of quite.
It was clean. It was clean.
Very client friendly.
Very client friendly. And I guess it reflected the type of work he was doing. You're shooting diamonds and there's a lot of security guards and plush clients turning up. It's maybe like this sort of space wouldn't be too suitable. But then saying that, Danny and Brendan, who are photographers that
Baker and Evans.
Baker and Evans studied with, who were the year below, they're just like a couple of doors down, and I think their studio's sort of similar vibe to this. So I guess there is different ways you can do it, and those guys are shooting for like top clients as well. So So those are the kind of introductions to studios. And then obviously we had our first studio, which was the basics of the basics.
Yeah. No roof.
Didn't have a roof, which you kind of think, how do you not have a roof? But it is possible. Obviously had a ceiling to the building, but our room didn't have a roof.
It's just very noisy, very dusty, and very cold.
Noisy. It's so basic, you know, not even painted, was it? Like they just, what are those walls? Plasterboard put together. I mean, it's the sort of thing that I could do. Yeah. But that got us foot in the door. Yeah. Got us to understand what we wanted, whether we wanted to continue doing that. So I think it's all part of that journey, and it's good, I think, to start, I guess at the bottom in terms of what you can get, because then it makes you appreciate this space even more now. Yeah. So I think that's kind of like a philosophy, throughout life, that starting with a smaller amount of things, and then working your way up, you just build that appreciation for most things.
Yeah, because that excitement of getting those first spaces, when you see other people kind of your assistant Tammy go into her space in Peckham a few years ago, and you're
ex-assistant,
previous assistant. You can feel that excitement even in yourself, seeing people kind of get their space and they're bringing bits and pieces in, and then maybe from them that you kind of got to really harness those first few years in those spaces.
For sure. Yeah. And I think Tammy's studio is a perfect example of that. Just you feed off that energy when you see her space and what they set up, and even just how they decorated it. It's a very basic space, but they just make it work and make it feel like an extension of who they are as artists. Yeah. And I think that's just that's what you can do with these spaces. You can personalize them to an extent.
You got your Star Wars figures up here. You got all kinds of
I love the divide between me and Jake's section. Mine a little bit more minimal, more found objects, and then Jake's kind of from the cheese, curry, pot noodle, plant, onwards goes a bit Star Warsy, and it's just Jake, isn't it?
Then you just get into Andy's kind of still life bits and pieces on the end, little mirrors and
found objects around the South East London area.
Yeah. Just going back, you mentioned about Tayo and Nico, who were two photographers that you went and worked with in Berlin. Yeah. In the summer of maybe 2008, 2009, and I guess that was an introduction to a space aside from maybe a few small assisting jobs, the white cube kind of style, where you were building stuff in that space and really constructing things. It's quite
there's the book.
Really valuable experience, I guess. And I remember years later when we did get that first studio, you were we need to get this space. We need to be able to get out of our living rooms and our bedrooms at home and have somewhere that we can have bits and make things and
for sure
shoot stuff.
But interesting, that was Tayo's flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he lived there, but Nico didn't. So I guess he travelled. It was definitely. But yeah, I remember staying there and waking up in the morning, open my door, and Tayo's trialing this silicon mould to make the frames for their show. So it was an incredible. It was an incredibly versatile space, and maybe an eye opener to what you could do in. Obviously, in his situation, his front room, but even just a tiny room, you could, you just enable this space where you can, as you say, come in, make a mess, leave your ideas, come with your ideas to the studio, leave them there, and then go home, and then come back in the morning. Tiny Nico. Yeah. Got that book here. Not together anymore. No. For the Wandering Bears. Nice. Pretty cool. But yeah, massive inspiration, those guys. And yeah, I think seeing their studios and who was it? We went to go to Anouk's studio space, which again might have been, I feel the Berlin style was maybe more studio flat. Yeah. So they had their studio where they lived, but where they lived was
an absolutely massive warehouse room.
Massive warehouse room. Oh, hang about. Are you talking about the Swiss place?
No, I've been to the Swiss place. No.
Cause,
The building with all the different bits in it. The
yeah, because
pile of stuff. I remember you saying.
Yeah, because when you say warehouse, I went to a massive warehouse in Switzerland, which was Tayo and Nico's first studio.
Yeah.
Which I feel like they may have set up or been like kind of founders with some other people, and right at the back of it, like right at the top, I guess where like there used to be an office, that was like a bedroom, and I stayed in there.
Yeah.
And it overlooked like this huge room, a huge warehouse where everyone would have their little section, like very open plan.
Yeah.
I guess a bit like our first studio, but more just on like one level. And yeah, they actually had like a sort of almost a Tayo and Nico shrine, but like it was where they just kept all their stuff, like so it was a bit of storage. But yeah, that was another space that I saw. So yeah, I guess seeing all those things probably did like subconsciously like inform and help
sell the dream.
Yeah, sell the dream and decide like, or just accept that it's not going to be perfect, and that's fine. And actually, it's probably funner to create in those spaces.
Yeah. I guess there must have been. Well, obviously, we're in like southeast London, where like you're saying, we were talking about the flats being built down the road and kind of those things slowly encroaching in. And I guess this is something we talk about, just like the cost of places and trying to find people for desks and all those kind of things feels like a real struggle. I'm sure it's always been a struggle.
It does feel particularly hard at the moment. Though, I think, which is obviously a real shame. I think, even in our time that I think we've been doing studios, which I don't know, what was it like 7 or 8 years?
Yeah,
or so. I think the prices and just the lack of spaces has gone up. So I do think it's harder. I mean, I guess I feel fortunate that like me and Luke have been able to develop as artists and therefore be like more stable. So I think it's a lot harder for newer artists starting out now, just because I think prices are too high.
Yeah.
Always helps like teaming up with people and doing that. So yeah, it's I think it's a very tough climate out there. But always keep the hope, always keep the optimism.
Keep the dream alive.
It will come back. Things will come back, and I guess I just value the space like so much that I know it's like it can be a financial burden sometimes, or like just a mental burden, but it's just always something like that. It's quite important to me to have. So
because you do a bit of mentoring and like teaching at LCC.
So sometimes. LCC is like teaching. Work closely with a guy called Derek there, who he's got us on board, and we do workshops and stuff there. But then like the actual mentoring we do with I do with the Photography Foundation, which is based in like North Greenwich,
and they help support people, I guess, from outside. They're not so much working in the photography community at the moment, or creative community.
I think it's they support people who want to get into the photo industry, but the pathways aren't as easy for them. They haven't had as many opportunities. It's a really good program. Like they run 6-month long courses, quite crash course in studio lighting or how to use a camera and everything. So they really equipped these young creatives, I think it's like 18 to 23 maybe, with some essential tools. So it's been really great working on that and meeting all the students and alumni who have gone through the system, because you do really see like a new energy and a sort of desire from people, and especially I guess if you haven't had those pathways, you haven't had like accessibility or like the privilege to be able to do something for free or whatever it is, I think it's just given those youngsters an opportunity, which it's like very fulfilling.
Does anyone ever ask you kind of about where you work, like the space that you work from, like any of
what, like the mentees?
Or the students at the university, or
I think we often get like emails where people are interested to just come and be with us and like see us. So we do try and take the time to give those opportunities, because I think we would both agree, like that opportunity even just to see a space, like to actually realize what it is when you're either studying at university or like the trainees at the photography foundation, trying to figure out how am I going to do this, or like what do
what's
I
the
want?
path?
What's the path? So I think just giving as much accessibility to those people who are interested, obviously, time pending and like workload pending sort of thing. But yeah, so I don't know, I guess there's probably been people who've come by here that maybe I don't remember as much as they will remember it.
Yeah.
Just like the time that I first went to so-and-so studio. Yeah. And yeah, hopefully that does help, certain individuals with maybe just under
setting a little fire inside people.
Just like, okay, that's what can happen.
It is possible to do these things.
Yeah, it is hard though because you don't reflect so much on that, I guess. I mean, I do sometimes. Do you? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like just remembering what it was like.
Yeah, just seeing. Yeah, when we went to Berlin and seeing like Taiwan Eco Space and going and sitting in, I think what was Anouk's studio and like just having a curry, and you're just like, there's all these objects around, and we were still studying at university at the time, and then maybe like after that we'd go back to our flat and be like, right, let's buy loads of tape, or let's like collect loads of wood from a skip, or like those kind of things. Whereas before, maybe you just go to like, there'll be the studios at university and you're just using like, again, this white space for an hour, 2 hours, and just having to bring stuff there feels like it's quite tricky to do. But when you're surrounded by all these objects and things like, again, you have here, it's like you're already moving, like the train's kind of moving, the ideas are going.
Yeah, hopefully. For sure. It's funny, I was always conscious of, I guess like maybe coming off the back of Richard's, like what we said, that super clean space, and then like getting a bit messy, or Andy's got a giant pixelated fish tank aquarium picture over there, but like I don't know, it'd feel weird if that wasn't up there now, because that is just like part of it. And I guess that's I think it reflects the character and the feel of the studio, and obviously it might not suit everyone, but I think it suits the majority of people that come to us for work because they like our style and approach. And you come here, this is where the stuff is made, so it probably reflects that.
Yeah. You mentioned Derek, who's the tutor at LCC, tutor. So you've been working on like a solo show, you and Luke together.
Yes.
Which is going live next week.
Next Wednesday.
Coming out
or
live.
It could be has just been, depending on when this comes out.
But hot off the press. How important, obviously we said a few times, like having a space is important, but being able to like develop that show again from your studio, how valuable has that been? And I know also you've been working on a book project. Is that something you've been able to like lay out on the walls here and kind of really, I guess, immerse yourself in it in that way, rather than just like getting all the having the files on your laptop, you're sending the files off to the printer, you're getting them back, you're putting them up in the gallery space, and that's kind of it. But yeah, I guess you are surrounding yourself with it. You got the posters, you got all the bits and pieces.
Well, I mean, I think the space has been invaluable for that, and I guess that's like what you realise. I know that already. Just that justification of, if you're not shooting, what are you using the space for? But like for me, it's like, well, I've got a fucking huge A3 printer here that you can see like all the posters and stuff, and like in this space here, I've got like the posters. I can like, because that's the size we're printing, like the poster that we're going to sell. Yeah, and so you can use this wall space, and so we're working with a lady called Jessica Wang, and she came, and like we basically got all the polyboards out from here, and we kind of replicated the walls. So we had like 2 there, 1 there, 1 there, and like you need this space to be able to do something like that. Yeah. So we printed out all the pictures, the big printer over there, and then like we had them all like on the table here. So it just felt like that was just the moment that the studio was made for, because to visualize it, we had to like see it physically, and then like you just need the actual space. Yeah. So yeah, it's been great. And then also we've got a production coordinator who's been working with us, so called Beth. And she's been coming in like once or twice a week. So just been able to give her like the desk space to sit here, set up and do her thing. Yeah. Again, is like super important. I think like if we had tiny space, it might not work, or you would sort of meet at a cafe or something, which of course is like a very viable option. But there's something about coming to the hub,
the heart of it,
and just sometimes I can come in and just like throw some darts when you just need a break from the screen, and obviously it's like super amazing to be able to do that. But
because in terms of the show, I'm assuming most of it was like shot outside of the studio.
Yeah.
But then do you want to talk a little bit about like your process of like working as like photographers, just to kind of cover that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think it definitely varies. I think project to project, we definitely use different techniques. I think people definitely like label us as like these process-based photographers, which is fair enough, because if you look at our work, and it is mainly that. I think we always need to do something else to an image, whether that's in camera or in post. It can be like a variety of things. So we don't necessarily see ourselves as like one type of photographer. So you're right, like we do use like those processes a lot within our work, but it does really cross like the realms of so many different things, from like portraiture to fashion to still life to music videos to like abstract. I would just put this under the abstract art category for the show. So, when someone writes a piece about their work and they're like, they use, acrylic paint strokes. And I'm like, we haven't used that for years. Yeah. So I kind of like get caught up on the technique. Like the technique. Yeah. But I think there always is something like different. But then like the running documentary that we've been working on, that's shot like super raw. It's just like video. Yeah. Still injecting some things in there, but
there's less like playing around.
There's less tomfoolery going on.
Yeah, it's very much straight from the camera.
Straight from the camera. So I always think we had that capability to sweep back in or sweep over somewhere else. And I think what's for sure is we've identified like serious techniques in our work that we can go to now a lot quicker than like the early years.
It's like your toolbox is absolutely massive.
Yeah, we got like a big toolbox, and we know what we like. And I guess we always try not to be trend led, and that's something that we've been like very conscious of since like the early years, of being able to just identify what's you and like what you like. Yeah. But now we just I think we just concentrate on what we like and what we want to do, and so those techniques just come through depending on what project we're shooting.
And the book project, does that run alongside the group show the show that you're doing?
Yeah, so we have the show, like that's coming up. The first show is at Photo Fusion, like launches on the 19th of June. And that's going to be on show for 3 weeks in Brixton. Yeah. And then we have another show the following week in Copenhagen, showing at Oblong Gallery, and that's starting on the 27th of June. And that runs for 3 or 4 weeks as well. Yeah. So they're both the same project, but because they're so close together, they're obviously slightly different, because we've had to print and do shows for each. The book, which is super exciting, and almost like we're getting it Monday. Yeah. So I could have almost had it here. Yeah. Which is something we sort of we've been working with Tom. I forget the surname, so we'll put him in. All the names, I'm just saying first names because I'll probably get them wrong and offend some people. But anyway, he's the top. He did Tammy's book, and luckily he was up for doing ours, and it's been really great working with him, because like what you're saying about putting all the pictures in and stuff, we haven't actually done any of that, because I think we just appreciate him as a designer and an editor. And so sometimes you just go, you run with it and come up with some ideas. Yeah. And that's basically what he's done. So he's come up with an amazing concept and idea for the book, which like includes Japanese bifold perforated bifold pages where you rip it open and you look inside, and there's like BTS images. On the outside are like more of the main finished images, like that poster on the wall. And it just looks incredible. I can't wait. I'm so excited, but I've almost not been thinking about it so much because he's just handled it like unbelievably well. He's like he just works with the print house, all the design. I mean, we basically accepted his first edit, although he worked on it for hours. It wasn't just like he was like, here you go. Obviously took a long time.
Days, weeks and hours.
Yeah. But I think there was maybe 1 or 2 changes because he got it. And that was just super nice, like collaborating with him on that. So in a way, that's going to be a heck of a surprise seeing that physical object when it arrives. And the launch for that book is going to be a bit later in the year. So we're going to give it its own specific moment because it really deserves it. And we're yet to finalize exactly when, but hopefully it will be within a month or 2 of the release of the show. So we'll keep the energy and the connection between the two because it is the same project. Yeah. Like it's reconstructed nature of the book, it's reconstructed nature of the shows, and all the works in it are from that body of work.
Nice. So I guess you like to really bring people on with specific skills, I guess. Like you work with like editors on projects and like a book person rather than, I mean, some people do it all themselves. I'll probably include myself in that. Yeah. But then I guess there's 2 of you, like yourself and Luke, working together. Some of you, one of you's better at one thing, one of you's better at the other thing. But yeah, you really like to, whether it's like a commercial job or like the personal work. And some people would be like, the personal work, maybe it's not really making us any money. Obviously, it all adds in together, but it's like trying to really bring people that are like editing, like an editor or like a retoucher or like all those different people together into like elevating the whole project. Yeah, for sure. You've always been really keen on doing that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, that's interesting to know because I felt like maybe I was resistant. And
maybe what's that transition been like from I think holding on to it or not in a
I know exactly what you're describing because I definitely I think in the early years, like talking on behalf of Luke as well, we basically did do everything. I guess that's partly financial as well, and like accessibility of what we could actually afford and do. But in a way, I think our commercial work forced our hand a little bit where we were just like, oh, this is too much. Like we can't do this all. Like we physically can't actually do it all. And especially when moving image came into our world and like people were asking us to do that. Because, the first thing we want to do is like, figure out how to operate the camera, which obviously like we did. And we're just like, we've got to hold the camera. We're going to do the editing. Fuck me, the editing. Like, I love editing actually, but like when you're doing it to someone's specifications and technicalities,
the management of it
it's just like, oh my God. And then the music and everything else. It's funny because the running documentary, we've done it all. We've done it all. But maybe because I think like now with our move and stuff, like commercially, we do collaborate with like amazing editors. A guy called Leon who just completely gets like our vibe, and I think he also understands music. Yeah. So he cuts things to music like beautifully.
I think that's like, as an editor, you kind of got
you have to have it. But it's not always that intuitive, I don't think. I mean, we work with some other great editors who definitely have strengths in other areas. Yeah. But I think because, especially like with Luke's musical background and like always just wanting to make the tracks, to have someone, I guess, like use them in a, I don't know what word he would say, like maybe respectful
sympathetic
way. Sympathetic way, yeah. He, it's obviously like it's high up on the list of like what we're after. But yeah, so I think, that shift happened because of the commercial work and like the workload. And then I think at some point had to let go of like being fully in control. And I guess that me and Luke have learned that through like working as a duo, because you're not fully in control and you do have to let the other person come up with the ideas or like take the reins. And I think you just learn from that new things happen and new ideas happen that might not have like manifested if it was just you. And I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
And the more people you work with, I like working with people as well. Like I just love it when the studio's full and we've got lots of people, lots of chit chat, and so like I really thrive off that. So being able to work with like Jess, the curator, like Derek, he's also been like fully involved with the show. Just like having all these threads of communication, like with the printer, and then you kind of try and form like this team mentality where you're all pulling in the right direction. It's the same what we do like when we work on set and we like hire assistants, and then if there's like a DOP or like sound person or whoever that is, or we just try and identify those people who are of the same mindset of like we're all working as one. There's no hierarchy, and we just want to pull in the same direction because it'll be beneficial for you, it'll be beneficial for me. So I think it's putting that faith in multiple brains come up with something that maybe an individual one can't.
Yeah, nice. Maybe bringing it back to the space a little bit.
Bring it back.
Maybe we could just look at a few different objects that you've got kind of around.
What do you want to look at, mate?
So, I mean, we've got
This little fella.
this little fella. So, I guess to even just visually describe kind of...
Sorry, mate, go on.
No, it's fine. So I guess I've described it a little bit. We've got the desk spaces on one side, but then there's quite a lot of... So you've got desk space, you've got shooting space, you've got all your coloramas, all your backdrops and all those kind of things.
Coloramas.
But then I guess maybe on the desk side, you've got like objects which I know are from like sculptures.
Who made these desks?
I made these desks. So yeah, I'll take a photo of that and pop that in. But you've got like objects, like the kind of metal bent thing up on the shelf.
Do you recognise it?
Yes, I think that's in the print that I've got at home.
That is in the print that you've got, and
so you collect a lot of objects, and you kind of bring them back to the space.
Yeah,
but I guess also like talking about like your home, you have a lot of those objects at home. You've probably got more of those things, a lot of rocks. So I guess that's kind of inspired. You bring back those elements from like these trips that you go on.
Yeah, like within reason, isn't it? Like I think I was just really drawn to that. It's kind of annoying because it's rusty, and it just every time you move it, it just flakes off.
Yeah.
But yeah, like definitely bringing back objects is, if you can like put them in your pocket, they're pretty fun. I mean, a lot of these little trinkets are pretty fun. These are like from a trip that me and Luke did to Japan, which was sort of a creative development trip, and it was just incredible. I mean, we've got a whole body of work there that we're just like itching to like get going on and work with, but in terms of inspiration and everything else. So yeah, we got loads of little
bits and bobs.
Want to get that guy?
The little Doge.
He's a little, no, it's a little Shiba.
Yeah, the little Doge.
Oh yeah, Dogecoin. So yeah, what else we got that's of interest?
So you have like a few books, but I do know like your main book collection is kind of at home.
Yeah.
But is there any here that you ever pull out? I know a lot of people buy books, me included, and they never get. They don't see the light of day, and someone comes over to your house.
Yeah.
And they've looked at it more than you've looked at it.
This one here is a recent one that I bought at. It's not that one. It's this one. I bought this recently. I think that was off print. I say recently. It wouldn't have been this year's off print. It would have been last year's.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you say, with photo books or whatever, you buy a lot, but you don't really look at them. But this one I've actually picked up and looked at a couple of times. Yeah. I can't even tell you the name of the artist because it's all in, I think, Japanese. But it's basically an old lady and her cat, and it's just amazing. It's just pictures of her. Also, it's kind of cool. It's like a landscape book.
Yeah.
You don't often see those, do you?
No, it's like postcards kind of thing.
Yeah. And actually, like when I've been photographing like my granddad, I've interestingly shot it all landscape.
There you go.
Like 35mm style.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just, take inspiration from this.
Who was the other guy that you liked, that you had that book? Is it Julian Germain.
Julian Germain?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's at home.
But like that's kind of similar, like as in you picked out a book which is quite storytelling.
Yeah.
It doesn't really compare to like say your work in that way. It's like very visually different.
Good bloody
And
point,
also
mate.
the Julian Germain, which was like
Yeah.
Polaroids for like cover maybe, but like very not documentary
Germain
but
is-
kind of documentary, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100% a documentary book,
Yeah.
I'd say, because he just photographs an old guy.
Yeah.
When he was going on his way to a football match, just met him and just went back and shot him repeatedly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I have a soft spot for those type of books. It's interesting because Luke knows it as well. He's like, this is definitely a you type of book. And I don't think Luke would ever buy this book.
No.
But
He'd probably say it's quite boring.
yeah.
Possibly.
But I mean, how's that boring? Look, she's got
Yeah.
the cat on, what was that, like a trolley? I mean, how does the cat get that?
It's got some gardening,
I mean,
and I'm just gardening.
it's just amazing. I don't know, I find it like just so inspiring. But yeah, I guess it is kind of nice that it's something different from like what we shoot. It's like hanging out with people who aren't like photographers or creatives. I think it's also nice because you just get like different perspectives and ideas on the world. But yeah, that's definitely a thing with the storytelling. There's something beautiful about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, been photographing my granddad, kind of a bit like this, but I still like, I guess, add that Luke and Nik element. Even if I'm doing something by myself, it's the same with Luke. Like, I think we still adhere to these rules as if we're both there. So
Just in case someone's checking up on you.
Yeah, exactly.
So the name for the studio is Mushroom House.
Yeah.
Do you know where or why is it called that, or where did that name come from?
Jake Kenny, he came up with a list of names when we moved in, and it was brilliant. He had one day he just turned up with a piece of paper, and it had
He's been working
a
hard.
list of 10 names. So he'd been really thinking about it.
Yeah.
And always remember one of the options was Sad and Lonely Studios, which was just hilarious because we were like, that doesn't sound great. But then actually, the more I've thought about it, it's actually a pretty nice name.
Yeah.
Sad and Lonely Studios. But Mushroom House was on there, and I think his friend Mary from like where he worked at the time had done like a Mushroom House design, which I think is here. Like you see it on there. Pop it there, mate.
Nice.
And so yeah, it sort of just worked, and Mushroom House was born. So hence why we have all like the mushrooms here. And so whenever you see any sort of mushroom memorabilia, you got to buy it and
Bring it to the show.
bring it to the studio, which Arthur has done already, which is great because he found that in Copenhagen.
There you go. There's some big boys on there.
So yeah, there's not much theory to the name.
No.
Other than just a nice name.
Yeah.
It was either that or Sad and Lonely Studios. So flipped a coin.
Nice. Maybe kind of slowly wrap it up a little bit, but
Yeah, probably want to cut out some of the jargon.
nah, the jargon's good. Have you ever thought about like your absolute dream studio? If not money was no object, but if we were like, you got a blank check, whereabouts are you placing it?
So money is no object.
Money is no object. What did it look like? Tell the listeners, tell a story, and like where is it in the world?
Where is it in the world?
Yeah.
Huh.
Don't need to worry about Luke being in Denmark and he's got to fly over.
Teleportation.
We've got teleportation. We've got time travel.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's kind of funny anywhere in the world because my initial thought is to do it here still, just because of I think our network is so strong here.
Yeah.
And we've built up so many freelance and connections like that. You know, people might swing by the studio and stuff. But I guess you could build that up in other places.
Yeah.
And like working remotely, like what me and Luke do, like with each other, it works fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking about the camaraderie. I need the camaraderie. So ideal shoot space. I think I would still like to keep it separate from home, so it would be a space where you would go to.
Yeah.
So like,
You don't want your bed in the
I don't
middle
want it
of
at the end of the garden.
No.
I want it maybe at least 15 minutes, 20-minute ride from the house, because I love that ride to like from the flat to the studio.
Yeah.
That headspace, that exercise, everything about it. And, you know, I love that. So I'm basically stalling and building up time to tell you. But
basically, I'd buy this whole building and just have it here.
I reckon if I had any choice, maybe it could be like a house that you convert. Yeah. I like the idea of, you know, that was what was really nice about Richard's. He had like an amazing kitchen. Yeah. And he had a little garden. So that's kind of pretty cool if you can have those elements. God, it's just such a luxury studio. So yeah, and then it would just be like a nice house. I mean, it would be nice to have it like surrounded by nature, but that wouldn't necessarily work in London. No. Because, you know, you could have it close to a park. So some nice conversion job, I'm going to say in London, just for the accessibility for everyone like coming to work there, and I'd probably like just give the space to like the same people here, just so that they could continue the journey on with me. It's like if you win the lottery and then you're like, we're going on holiday, you're like, right, got to bring everyone else with me. Take the whole family. Otherwise you're just going on the private jet by yourself. Yeah. Which is no fun. Yeah, I'm definitely taking people with me. Yeah. So yeah, I'd probably do that, just because I think, for work I like to be surrounded by people. So even like the idea of having like a nice cabin in the middle of Sweden or something would be sweet, you know, like. But I feel you're dividing up the check and then just having different, like. Can I just buy the cabin as an extension to the house, just to go visit, like you can do, you know, once a year in the summer sort of thing? Yeah, you can do that. So yeah, from that, paint what you want, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful space. Nice. So it's really great that I guess it comes back to the community, like you just said, and just having that space surrounded by other people. Because I guess I work by myself, and I do crave having like other people around. But it's just, hopefully from like this series, we're going to meeting people possibly in their studios, in their garden, to like shared spaces like this, like photographers or even like makers, like showing the value of a space. It's really important. Yeah, I think community's big on our agenda. Nice. And something you start to value it more and more maybe when you see the opportunities where you don't have that. Yeah. So yeah, pretty important. Nice. Cool. We can stop there, but do we handshake? Keep recording. We can keep recording, but yeah, we'll keep rolling, mate. That's a good. Does that seem interesting? Yeah, well, I mean, it's always interesting when someone asks you questions about your work. So it's just whether it's interesting to the six people that listen to it. The 6 people that will listen to it. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that conversation between Nik and I there. If you want any more information about their practice, their processes, and just who they are as people, you can go to their website, which is lukeandnik.co.uk, or on Instagram at lukeandnik. Also, if you're interested in me coming and having a conversation like this and either sharing your home or your garden, your studio, your workshop with me, please feel free to reach out via Instagram or via the website. That would be amazing. I'd love to do that. So yeah, do get in touch, and onwards to the next one. See you soon. Thanks.